Podcast 4. That's what I'm talking about. Consistency, right? Consistency. Today we're going to talk about why I decided to go the route of telling stories and why I think it's just super important for people to do it. Small little stuff about me, when I was growing up, I wouldn't be considered someone who was super creative. Sadly, I had it in me. My mom taught me a lot in terms of what creating actually is and art. She started off as painting. She's a painter. She's a really good drawer, great handwriting. Like, I remember when I was younger, she was, painting full spread Native American or indigenous photos and paintings of, I guess you could say, like them in their element type thing. So I've been seeing it for such a long period of time when I was growing up until probably maybe around 10, maybe she stopped. But she was doing murals and maybe 6x8s. Like, she was doing some pretty solid size canvases. I don't know if that's the real size, but a big canvas. And I always saw that. I saw that a lot. And growing up for me, I wasn't really into that as much. I did a lot of tracing. Things like, taking magazines and tracing over and kind of adding my own little flair to it. So maybe that was the beginning of my creative mind, I guess you could say. But I guess I had an imagination at school, more or less with jokes and just, is it possible to have an imagination making fun of people or having comebacks and things like that? Maybe that's a form of creativity. I don't really know. I got made fun of so much, I just had no choice but to get creative with comebacks and insults and things like that, where I got pretty good at it. It's probably why I'm using verbal communication right now as we speak, just doing this podcast. But high school, not so much. I did football, karate, things like this, where I wasn't really into art per se at that point. What was my creative outlook, or what was my creative thing that I did at home? My form of getting away, and it really wasn't too much. I had a lot of video games. I had the sports. I had a lot of TV, which is good and bad. But fast forward to now, I'm 34 years old, and I'm on this. I'm committing my life to my art. Throughout the years, I've noticed one thing that kept coming up for me that just intrigued me so much, and it was storytelling. I know storytelling is such a huge thing right now, but in most cases, storytelling for me was how I was able to meet so many people. I traveled to Asia 2 times a year for 10 years straight minimum. I lived in Hong Kong for 6 months twice. I lived in Taiwan for 8 months once. And each single time, I went to China a lot, Thailand, places like that, and meeting a shitload of people. And the number one thing that really connected us all was stories, and stories around a certain subject where we could all just hang out at a bar or a restaurant or a lobby or an office building, for example, and just speak our mind, I guess you could say, around a certain topic. And from there, those were things that were able not only to teach me about other cultures and other people's perspectives, but it was also a form of me being able to let loose a little bit and, kind of share what my life was about and some small instances of what happened. So, when I was growing up, I wasn't really taught to really share too much, and sharing seemed like it got messed up, I guess you could say, with bragging. So I didn't share at all. I kept it all inside, and we just did our activities and didn't really interact a lot in terms of depth with a lot of friends that I even have now. And more or less, we're having more stories when we go out. But even so, like, it seems like even that's kind of like changing up a bit, because now we're talking about alcohol, girls, money, and stories around just the simpler things in life and our experiences and what our perspective from that experience was. Sadly, it wasn't being shared enough amongst certain groups of friends that I have. When I went to go travel and meet people, that's all we had. How else can you really interact with someone that you never met in your entire life, and without telling a story or two at least to get that deal breaker? No, not deal breaker. Breaking the ice. That's what it's called, breaking the ice. So now fast forwarding to now with my art is I just want to go back in time. I want to get those stories out. I want my perspective to be expressed and from there to grow from that with new experiences at the same time. And the only way I could see that growth of meeting people and creating community is by storytelling more and more and more and more. And by doing these storytelling in different avenues, such as TV, such as the podcast I have right now, meeting people, having people come on the podcast, and just collaboration. I really, really hope that the storytelling within that is the focal point of everything that I do. And I want to be known for it. I want to be known as a storyteller and someone who's good, who is able to create bridges with people in the same community, but also bridges outside of the country. There's just, the world is so massive, and we're in a world now where we're creating fear around different people from media, and it's not fair. It's not cool. Each person, we have 7-8 billion people in this world. Think about that. We have so many people. They have so many different perspectives on how they grew up, and certain events within each of their lives made them who they are today, to have that conversation with you. And you just, to have that experience where you've met someone for the first time and having a mutual understanding and also creating a friendship from that is just so powerful. And I don't want to experience, that's like the best experience I can have. It really is. Besides growing with my family, seeing my son grow, seeing my relationship grow, seeing me grow, I want nothing more but to connect with people I've never met, or people that I do know, and just getting so deep that our vulnerability creates a connection. And with that is sharing that vulnerability and connection with other people. And we're able to spread this beautiful virus, basically, into the world, where it may create more peace. And that's the subject for today, is why I feel storytelling is just so powerful. Click the like, follow me on this journey. You already know.